Pownal Select Board special meeting Thursday, June 29th at 7 PM. Agenda approval of the minutes of 6/15/17, warrants, old business, fiscal year 17 final budget adjustment, equipment disposal bid, municipal roads grant and aid pilot project letter of intent, excess weight enforcement, and sheriff contract renewal and tannery access legal. What's your pleasure?
Move to approve the agenda.
Okay, get a second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Approve the minutes of 6/15/17.
So moved.
Get a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Abstentions? Nays? Hi, Peter. We've started our meeting, so come on in and have a chair. Warrants. Okay.
Thanks.
I'm gonna do all the ones that we want to approve, and do the other one afterwards. Okay, payroll ending 6/23/17 in the amount of $8,085.13. Payroll ending 6/30/2017 in the amount of $9,980.77. Accounts payable in the amount of $16,184.95. Let's see what the ones. The large ones were Blue Cross, Blue Shield, over 5,000, Green Mountain Power, which makes up most of it. Okay. Accounts payable ending 6/30/17 in the amount of $34,234.35. I'm going to do that. $34,237.35. And the largest part of that was the Bennington County Regional was $10,000, the largest on it. Then the sheriff was $27,000. The Hoosick Water Quality $28,80, and Peckham Materials was $2,700 and $3,000 for Beamers. Okay. I'll take a motion on those.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion on those? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We have one other warrant that we didn't get the information for until tonight. Some of the select board members just have their packets and stuff with this information. And it's an accounts payable to the state. And the board, I assume you want to table this because you want to review it.
Yes.
Get a motion to table.
So moved.
And it's accounts
Second.
payable 53A. It's for the period ending 6/30/17. So I got a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. That was tabled. Old business, final budget adjustment. Somebody have that information in front of them?
Yeah, we do.
Basically, from the previous meeting, there was Ellen found a typo in one of the expense line. The monetary change to the contingency balance went from 53.9 to 51,173.42, and we need to amend.
Okay, and there was a difference of $2,726.58.
We have to amend the contingency balance.
So the correct request is to contingency to road wages needs to be $6,873.42. And then there's a list on that slip. So I get a motion to do that.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Equipment disposal bid. Open those up, Jason.
First one is for $1,605.
And this was for what?
Which piece of
This is for
equipment?
the 2001 International, I believe.
Yep. Don't. Okay.
Second one is $1,801.
For the same piece as
Same piece.
Same piece, and what was the minimum bid on this truck?
Minimum bid, the board had asked for 2,500
Originally.
originally.
And then we decided there were no bids on it at all, so we decided to, these two people both wanted to submit bids after.
After looking at it?
That's right.
And so there was not a minimum requirement on these bids? If it was not, then what's the board pleasure?
motion to go with higher bid.
Get a second for
So
that?
moved. Second.
Okay,
What
discussion?
was the highest bid?
Was 1605.
1605?
Who was the person? Bidder.
Terry Stacy. Any discussion? If not, I'm gonna call the motion. You all set? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Abstains? Nays? Aye. Would you inform the person that they are the proud owner of a...
Give us a,
Yeah, that's good.
I think the other part too is they have a week to remove it.
Yeah.
Week to pick it up.
Get it off the property. Okay, you have a municipal road grant.
No bids came in on the tractor then, right? Okay.
And basically, this is a letter of intent to participate in the RPC DEC Municipal Road Grants in Aid Pilot Project. Everybody had a chance to look at this. Basically, the town is eligible for $10,800. This is just a letter of intent that we're interested. What's your motion? You wish we sign it?
Yeah,
Got a motion?
make a motion, we do.
second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We all should sign this. I'll pass it down through and then Linda can end up with it. Thank you. Excess weight enforcement. What was the discussion on this? Were we gonna,
Well, originally, we had a meeting and we talked about having sheriff send one of his guys to school to get certified to do enforcement for us.
And then we decided
We
to
had some
bring,
discussion afterwards and there
And
were
we
some
got it on hold?
questions. Had it on hold.
Yeah,
questions?
Right.
Do we have people here that can explain to us what
right.
that
Can you
means?
send us?
I signed this one. Kevin is here.
I can answer questions for you, whatever you're.
How is it enforced now? I guess I'll start this conversation with, how is it enforced today in Pownal?
As far as I know, there is none unless you guys are doing it. We do enforcement, patrol, and occasional checkpoints on state routes. But as a practice statewide, we don't cover municipal roads unless we're invited by the governing body or requested by the governing body for that town to do enforcement.
And if the town requests, how does that proceed?
When we have some resources, we dedicate to whatever your problem area is, and we will first start with educational stops, and then after a few weeks, we'll do enforcement stops. It's just very difficult to go in and start with enforcement, because if you're getting vehicles at 80,000 pounds, potentially up to almost 100,000 pounds, and the legal road limit's 24,000 pounds, that's a significant ticket.
Well, the reason why we're discussing this is because we do have a number of roads in town that we feel have had heavier loads on it than what they're rated for. And they haven't been going to the road foreman every time to request to go on them and so forth. And what we're trying to do is to find a way that the municipality can turn around and at least people make aware that we will be enforcing.
Yeah, so there has to be a few things in place. One is the roads have to be properly posted, which, obviously living in Pownal, I see most of them, and from what I see, they look fine. And there's got to be a permit process in place, which last I knew,
We have
you
that.
guys have.
We got
Yeah.
that.
So those are the two criteria to have enforceable weight limits. Now, to speak to Jason's comment, there is no really certification per se for somebody to be able to enforce size and weight limits, because those are just Vermont statutes. We provide training at the academy for officers that want to learn size and weight statutes. The only reason we would require an officer to go to that training is if they want to enter in an MOU with the Department of Motor Vehicles to borrow portable scales. Then we require that so we know that they know how to use them properly, because the set of six scales is about $36,000, and that's what each of my people carry.
And the scales at that point, are they something that's easily for other departments to get if they're trained to do that?
Yeah, depending on requests from the municipalities, we have about 6 or 7 sets of loaner scales that will rotate through municipalities, so everybody gets a fair opportunity to use them. Unfortunately, there's no town-owned platform scale, which makes it a little bit more challenging, but
So when you say for another town to use, they borrow the scales from you and then the sheriff's department or their local law enforcement does it?
whatever normally it's a municipality, but it can be a sheriff's department. Any department that's not the Department of Motor Vehicles. If they want an officer to be able to use scales owned by us, or loaner scales as we call them, scales borrowed from us, we require them to go through the training that we provide at the academy, so that we know that they've been trained in the proper use of them because of the cost. And they enter into usually an MOU with us for a certain amount of time to use the scales, and they report back to us the activity that they had with them.
I'm going to ask a question. I don't know if you'll have the answer or not. Now, my understanding is that through ticketing processes, a share of that comes back to towns.
Correct.
So if there was a ticket that was given out for excessive weight, is there a share of that also comes back to the town, or is
Yes.
that? Okay.
Yes. There's different codes in the schedule of fines depending on where the ticket's written. There's state codes for state highways. There's local codes for local highways. So obviously, if you're enforcing a local limit and you're here specifically on contract with the town, any overweight tickets or oversized tickets would be written under the local statutes. So then based on the ticket with that violation code and the town code on the ticket, the Judicial Bureau knows where the
money
fees
go
back
Yeah,
to.
because one of the concerns that we're having is that everything's an expense to the town, and we want to try to spend the money wisely. But it sounds that this way here, you actually could recover the cost that it would cost for training someone or other services.
So, I mean, it's a lot to become really proficient with all the different weight statutes. There are a few towns that do a lot of it, and they're very good with it, and they really do a lot of enforcement. The problem is getting a municipality, typically it's a municipal department, that's going to dedicate somebody enough time to be able to proactively do this to become proficient. This is half of our job, and we're one department. So it's not something that unfortunately you can go out and weigh 4 trucks a year and be proficient at it.
So what do you recommend would be the best way for our small town to proceed to enforce it?
I don't see any possible way for you to do enforcement without portable scales, because you don't have a platform that's accessible. And we really discourage the use of any private platforms, because that always gives the impression that you're not going to do any enforcement on the company that owns them. So with that said, your options boil down to the town buying a set of scales, which again, we just purchased a set of 6. It was right around $36,000. Or have the sheriff send somebody to one of our one of our classes to be trained in the use, and you know, at some point, we would give the sheriff's department a loaner set of scales through an MOU to be able to have the officer that was trained or officers that were trained do enforcement wherever.
Well, how about if they had to have a permit to be on the roads, and you have a list, the sheriff has the list of the people with permits. If their name isn't on the list, they could give them a warning, right, the first time?
Well, I mean, certainly if they could
Right.
reasonably say that the people, you know, that the vehicle is
Right.
over the road limit.
Well, there's two things that I think one is the town permit. If they don't have a town permit, there must be a fine for that, I assume. And then, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's, if they don't have a permit to be on the town road, there's got to be some sort of violation. And then the second thing is if they're overweight, traveling that road.
So there's no violation for just being on the road without a town permit.
Okay.
They're either over the weight or they're not. So if you have a posted 24,000 pound road, if the vehicle exceeds 24,000 pounds, then it's over the road limit. Now that's where the town permit comes in, because the town may decide that they're going to issue permits up to whatever it is in excess of
And
the
we
road
do.
limit.
Yeah,
So you don't issue a truck a permit to go on a road, you issue a vehicle a permit to exceed the road limit.
right.
So maybe you decide, you know, our local road limit's gonna be 60,000 pounds or
That's what we
50,000 pounds, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I remember that from our conversation. So we'll say 60,000 pounds. So you'd be issuing vehicles permits to, in essence, go up to 60,000 pounds on locally posted roads.
Bill would like to ask a question.
Oh, yes.
I just wondered what the percentage of return to the town is on these fines. You said there was a percentage came back.
Yeah, I believe it's, maybe you can help me out, Sheriff. I think it's everything but the surcharge.
Gets into fuzzy math, Bill, to be honest with you.
Yeah, there's-
The state takes a portion, there's a pool of, victims advocates, a whole bunch of other special interest groups that get part of that money. And then the other thing that you need to consider is we may write a ticket for $500, but it may get reduced in court. The judge may say, well, this person only needs to pay $300. So, your part of the pie gets smaller and smaller. And then, of course, there's always that group of people that never, ever, ever pays their tickets. They just go under suspension. So, I think a good rule of thumb is probably more than 50%, but
Okay.
probably not any more than 80. So, that'd probably be a good place to
80,
start.
50 to 80%.
50 to 80% of the total
Of the
ticket
total.
that we write.
Yeah, an excessive weight ticket can be substantial from what you said earlier. Could be.
Yeah, I mean, they can go anywhere from a little over $100 up to
Thousands.
thousands. Yeah.
Wow.
My feeling is the issue is very small, but a couple of years ago we had a really big logging job in town, and they were running tractor trailers with like 4 axles in the trailers, and instead of going down 7, they were going over North Pownal Road, shortcutting to North Pownal and into New York. That's the only concern. That's the only time that I've seen it be a problem that's jeopardizing our roads.
So, I mean, one thing to, just put out there on the table is we make it known to all municipalities. You can do what obviously if the sheriff's going to do the enforcement, that's that, but if we come in and do enforcement, it's level enforcement across the board. So that's everybody. So that's going to be equal notice given out to the fuel haulers, the trash haulers, the loggers, the dump trucks. I mean, everybody has to get enforced the same and be offered the same,
Yeah, I would hope that works no matter
The
who's.
same with us.
And how often are you in Pownal? Do you?
Me hardly ever, because I sit
He lives
behind a
here.
desk for the most
Yeah.
part now. But I live in Pownal, obviously.
Yeah.
But,
You're
you
in
know,
school with my boys.
yeah,
Down on 7, I've seen you on the rest area sometime. haven't I?
it's hard for me to say how often. because.
But you're doing enforcement when you're down there, right? When I see you?
On the state
Yes,
Sometimes, yes.
on the state highways,
state
there,
highway.
on the patrol 346
Right.
and 7. So yeah, certainly we do in weight enforcement when we're out there.
None of that comes to the town because it's a state road, correct?
That's right.
Yes, Bill?
Could you tell me the percentage of towns that actually participate in this? I've been in towns north of here and asked for this permit, and they didn't even know it existed. And I don't know.
I can tell you about every year we have officers from probably a dozen towns come to the training. Out of that, reality is probably 3 to 4 may start the process and do the MOU to get some scales and go out and do enforcement, and then they quickly learn that patrol activities take precedence over weight enforcement, so it usually falls to the wayside pretty quick. We have a few departments that own their own scales, so they're out there all the time doing it.
Thanks.
But it's the percentage is low for towns that have a continuing enforcement. And there's a lot of towns that don't even partake in issuing permits. So
Found that out.
Well, I guess the question that comes back to me is the board initial intent was, I forget what the cost of the training was, to send the sheriff department out to be trained for this and then go and borrow scales and hit, because he patrols our back roads and side roads. And at that point, if someone was stopped, they could weigh him and do what needs to be done. I agree with you. I don't think it would occur a lot, but the real question is we've known that some of our roads have been broken up because of what's occurred in the past. I just think it's good to have the ability to do that. But I also heard that we can call you or call your department and have you patrol these back roads. Is that a true statement, or was that?
Once in a while, not the whole time.
I understand once in a while. We're not looking for every week.
yes, I mean we have done it for towns in the past. We will, if it's requested by, the governing body for the town. So select board, mayor, town manager, something like that.
So
we don't go in and do it just based on a citizen complaint or something.
Yeah, but if we were to request it at that point, do we specify roads, or do you do every road in town? How do you manage that?
However you want. I mean, normally it's, an area that towns are concerned with, or a few different specific roads. We'll take like, a typical one would seem to be like North Pownal Road, taking the shortcut. That would be probably one that sees more overweight vehicles than, say, Pine Hollow Road, where I live.
Yes. Well, even though you got campers that go out there, they're pretty heavy.
But or if you just you're not sure and you're looking for a little help in identifying where you have problems, I mean, we'll roam the town too. I just can't I can't say that I'll have somebody there 5 days a week.
Well, one of the places we cited was North Pownal Road, definitely, because it's a shortcut. It's a cut across, and
Right.
when they everybody with GPS now tells them where to go, and they tell them the shortest route. I don't even know if they look at the 24,000-pound sign that's on the end of the road. They just go down through. I've seen tour buses go down through. It's just what happens. So I'm not sure where the board wants to go, but at this point in the game, we could actually ask and have something done for a short time and see how that works, and then move on with the next phase if we think it's worth actually having somebody train and having it done on a regular basis.
I mean, you can discuss the the training with the sheriff. There's the fee to actually do the training is pretty nominal. I mean, it's just whatever fee the academy charges for training. I don't know if it's $12-15 a day, something like that, whatever. But so
Personnel cost for me, 75
Yeah.
minutes.
yeah, I mean, usually that's the biggest cost for any department's the salary to.
Kevin, is it 32 hours? Is that what we said the training was?
It's yes.
32 hours.
Yep.
really need 2 people to do the scales anyhow, right?
No, each of my people carry 6 scales.
Oh,
The magic number is 6 because axles have to be weighed together. So the biggest group that we typically see is a triaxle, which takes 6 scales. So that's why we carry 6.
Yep.
See, our concern was we had an issue down in South Pownal where they were putting in a solar plant and they were going across our bridges and they were going up the road. And the guy actually laughed at us and said, ha ha ha, I paid for your $10 permit. Like, he could do whatever he wants. And our hands are tied. So what do we do in a case like that?
If he pays for the permit,
Nothing. Right.
but technically he's overloaded.
Right. He was overloaded.
But
I
that's
mean,
where-
it depends. It depends what the permit weight is issued to,
Right.
and what he actually weighs. I mean, just because he has the permit doesn't mean he can,
Right.
load up to 110,000 pounds and drive around on the roads.
Right.
If the permit's only good for 60,000, then that's his legal road limit.
Yeah. So we're trying to figure a way to protect ourselves.
Well, I guess the question is, if something like that is occurring, you just put a call in, have someone come down and with the scales and weigh it. Because they're doing it every day for a week or months even.
Yes, but understand that we may not necessarily be that close, and we have a statutory limit of 1 hour from the time the vehicle is stopped for the purposes of being weighed until the time the vehicle has to be completed. The weighing has to be completed. So if we're,
Do you carry
More than
scales
an
around
hour.
with you all the time?
I don't carry any.
Always thinking.
But yeah, so I mean, it really depends on where people are at the time as to whether they can reasonably get here in an hour to do it.
Okay. But does the board have enough information at this point that they either want to make a decision, or do you want to think about it a little bit and come back and the board discuss it again?
Maybe it'd be worthwhile to try the option we have, see if it'll work and take care of itself. Because it's not really the local people that are causing the problem. It's
Well, you won't know until you put somebody out there with scales.
Right.
Then you'll find out.
I mean, if you decide, and you don't have to do it now, but whenever you guys meet and decide, if it involves a request to us to do some enforcement, if you could generate a list of companies that have permits, it would be
We have
helpful.
that.
Yeah, we have a
Because
list.
there's, all right, because for fleet permits, there's no requirement that they have to carry it with them.
right.
So,
Yeah,
that
we
could be a
can
big
find it.
difference
Yeah, I
of
think-
whether a vehicle's
I think
overweight or
we're
not.
We're missing a little point here. The most important thing about our local permit is when we have that permit, we have their information on their insurance company.
Right.
So if they do damage our road or damage a bridge, we have something to fall back on. That's
Exactly.
the important thing. It's not a money thing, and it's not a.
Yeah, now when you
it's-
charge
it's a-
$10 a permit, it's
Right.
not about
Right.
making money, it's about protecting us.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that was the issue with the solar job last year in the South Pownal. They waited till the project was about over, and then they got their permits. It was two and a half
Yeah,
weeks.
Bruce.
As an outsider, yeah, I was just curious if a municipality wants you to come in to do this type of work, what type of compensation do they have to make in the state, or is it a freebie?
Well, for all intents and purposes, it's a freebie. Well, we're not going to be there every single
Right,
day doing
right,
it,
right.
But when we come in and do it, yeah, it's
okay.
Part of the state coverage.
It's a partnership.
Okay, so what's your pleasure, guys? We're sort of talking in a circle back each item.
I think the most important thing is maybe if they knew that there was a chance somebody would weigh up. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean.
They come through and they don't care what they weigh or whatever forever. But if there was a chance that they might be scaled up, and it's a significant fine, I think it's just like you go through places like Lanesboro or Nassau, New York or whatever, you know there's speed traps. People behave themselves. People maybe wouldn't be running tractor trailers down over North Pownal Road if they knew that there was a chance they might get. But by listening to you fellas, there's no chance that anything's going to happen. That's the only thing that
That's the
I'm
hard part.
concerned
Well, that's, I think that's,
Because, I mean, if they knew there was a chance that they would get pinched, you know, I know if I was driving a truck back in the years when I used to drive, the ICC was the only one you're worried about. See? But they'd check you, and you'd pay fines. They'd stop you. But you knew there was a fear there. It could be anywhere.
It's the same when we drive through a state road in a town that we haven't been in 3 months.
Yeah.
You know, the eyes get big and
I'm not
the
saying
loads get
that,
smaller.
I
And
want to turn into a police town, a police state or a police town, but it would be kind of nice that if they, you know, had a little bit of fear of God or whatever you want to say, they come through, they're, you know, totally way over.
And I agree with you, Ron. I mean, that does go a long way.
Yeah.
It does go a long way. But at some point, you have to make good on on the threat of being
That's
laid.
right. That's right.
So,
so moving it along, why don't we tonight make a request that you look at North Pownal Road, that we have the state come down and at your convenience and look at North Pownal Road a few times over the next month, because it happens. If the board's in agreement with that.
You need a motion for that?
You can make one if you wish. And then at least at that point, we know we've got somebody out there. We'll see what happens. In a month, we can hear if anything's been happening, if anybody's seeing anybody or not seeing anybody. Because I know I listen to my house person tell me about how many big trucks go by at least once a month. So, in agreement to do that?
No, so, I've got a question. Is the town opening itself up to more liability by doing this? You're going to intensify your enforcement, that's fine, I can see that. But on the other side of the coin, are the truckers going to start paying more attention if one of their trucks is damaged on our roads that aren't maybe up to snuff? They're within their weight limits and they have a problem? Then does the town become more liable? It seems like it's just sort of one side.
We have that liability right now. You know, if a trucker comes in here because they break an axle because we haven't maintained a road, we have that liability today.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're changing our liability. What we're doing is we're trying to protect the town investment in the road. It's certainly, you look at our blacktop roads that these heavy trucks go over, and they don't last the 15 years we're trying to get out of them. We're lucky if they last 10.
But I'm thinking as you intensify enforcement, it's going to build on the other side. And the guys are going to be more apt to tell you they broke an axle. Maybe they didn't even break it on that road. But I wouldn't, you know, it's just a thought.
Well, it's I guess it's up to the board to be willing to take that chance if they wish, because you're right, we're making a change to the system and the way it's worked here for years, and some people don't like change, and you'll always see a ripple effect from it. But I think if we do nothing, then we need to stop complaining about how our roads break up and just keep dumping money in to re-blacktop them earlier. And as we know, that cost is going up and up and up. So,
Yeah, it's a two-sided coin, but
so Nelson, what I would like to see, if you're going to request that we come in and help, is I would prefer if I was able to coordinate with the sheriff to have our people here doing enforcement at the same time he'll have patrol here.
makes sense.
whatever works for you and improves the overall conditions that we're trying to deal with.
And I think it enhances the effect if other operators see the sheriff's department working with us rather than, you know, just kind of doing our own thing. Plus it helps us maybe having the deputy that, you know, is going to stop another vehicle while we're finishing up with one, or vice versa, or whatever. So it just works better having more than one person.
Yeah, that's fine with me. Ronnie, do you think we should move forward and at least test it? And
I think we ought to give it a shot for, you know, I mean, to see, I mean, maybe there ain't any violators. How do I know?
I was going to say, you might not find anybody in a month.
I mean, maybe there ain't, but.
Sometimes perception's way off, you know.
That's right.
People think there's tons of traffic, truck traffic at night, and the reality is there may be in one specific spot, but overall statewide, we can tell you, there's not nearly the trucks out at night as there is during the day, but, you know, so perception is reality, you know, until you prove it otherwise.
That's
That's
right.
right.
Well, some voters are complaining, so we're trying to
No, this,
solve the problem.
Exactly.
Bruce,
Yeah,
what's your
protect our
thought?
roads.
I think we ought to try it. This,
I agree.
Do you need a formal?
I
letter
don't,
from-
just an email from somebody on the,
Yeah, the town will send you
from
an
somebody
email. Linda will
would be,
send you
would be
one.
fine.
Okay.
And then,
And you, and-
I'll
And you'll work-
coordinate with the sheriff as far as, you know, the best times to work with the deputy down there.
Yeah, the other thing I'll do too is, I mean, I can't imagine you're the only town in the county having this problem. I'll reach out to the other towns that we patrol and see if maybe they have an interest in truck enforcement, and maybe we can
share the
pool
costs.
the resources, and the other towns might pony up some money to train somebody to start doing this.
Thank you.
We appreciate that. That's-
Yep. Okay, anything else on this? I'm gonna move on. Okay, sheriff's contract.
Thanks, Kevin.
You're welcome. I'll stay in case any last minute questions come up.
Thank you. What's your pleasure? You've all seen the sheriff's contract. What was the number of hours with this increase, Linda, that will be covered?
25 or 26.
With the new rate, 35 hours?
Yeah, it's in your folder, yeah.
Okay, so it's for 35 hours. What's your,
Was it 35?
No, it's not good.
No, not 30, that's $35 an hour.
Oh,
$35. It went up a couple.
27 hours.
27 hours.
$1.
26.5, 27, 27.
I move to approve the contract.
Okay, get a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? We talked about this the other week. All those in favor say
As
aye. Oh, go ahead.
long as we keep getting these logs.
That's
Yeah,
what I
we
was
like
just
your
gonna
report.
ask.
Yeah, I didn't know that they weren't sending them to you.
Yeah.
So if you wanna look.
Yeah, we were just
if you
getting
wanna
this
look
little
as
piece of
far
paper
back
that
as I
looked
have
like it
records
was-
for, we can send you whatever you need.
Yeah.
That's what the guys write on the back of their,
yeah.
Well, if you
Yeah,
could
somebody
just,
else was telling us that, and we said, we never saw that before.
if you just continue sending them that way, that's good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
no, that's not a
appreciate
problem.
that because
it gives you an idea of
the
where, you
people
know.
ask us what's going
Yep.
on.
Right.
I didn't see a
Absolutely.
sheriff. Well, maybe they live on Pine Road.
Right.
Did get a second.
They don't need a
And we
sheriff.
got, we're getting calls on ATVs and all that kind of stuff, and, we don't
Can't be
know whether
everywhere.
you've been there or you haven't, or.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, any other questions, comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, Tannery Access, legal. This is gonna be an executive session discussion with an attorney. So I need a motion to go in executive session to talk about legal, what we're gonna do
Everybody
legal.
else?
Yep. Well, first I need a motion to do that, then we'll ask who we want to stay in and not stay in.
Ready to go?
Get a motion?
Motion to go into executive session for legal.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye.